All right, so you want to learn about bin stores, huh? Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to take a deep dive into this whole bin store phenomenon today. It's really fascinating, actually.
It really is, yeah. It's like a completely different approach to retail, you know? It's not your typical carefully curated shelves and high
But
prices.
the wild west of retail.
Exactly. And it's all about volume, volume, volume.
So we've got a ton of sources here, articles, interviews, you name it. We're going to break down everything from startup costs to sourcing inventory to the crazy world of bin store pricing strategies.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that it's like a win-win for both the shoppers and the owners.
Right, the shoppers get those incredible deals, like finding a phone case worth $30 for just $3.
Exactly. That's the kind of find that gets people hooked. And for the owners, it's all about turning over inventory quickly and efficiently.
It's a completely different mindset. So let's start at the beginning. You've got this idea you want to open a bin store. What's the first step?
Well, the first hurdle is always location, location, location. You got to find the right spot. And it's a tough balance,
Yeah,
right?
you want a place with lots of foot traffic, but you don't want to be paying an arm and a leg in rent.
Right. So, should you be in a busy city center or maybe a more affordable warehouse district? It's a big decision.
It really is. I mean, you could have the best inventory in the world, but if no one can find you.
Exactly. So that's definitely something to think about carefully.
Absolutely.
Hmm?
So let's say you've found the perfect spot. Now you need to fill those bins, right?
Hmm.
Where do you even begin to find all that inventory?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, it's probably the biggest challenge for most bin store owners.
Yeah.
Because without a steady stream of great merchandise at bargain prices, you're not going to stay in business very long.
It's the lifeblood of the entire operation, so where do you even start? I mean, our sources mentioned everything from these giant liquidation pallets.
Yeah. Liquidation pallets, so those are like the mystery boxes of the retail world.
You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. You could get amazing stuff, or you could get, well, let's just say not so amazing stuff. It's a gamble.
And then there's the whole world of online liquidation marketplaces. Is that where the pros are playing these days?
It is becoming more and more popular. Platforms like bin store, liquidation pallets, and truckloads connect bin store owners directly with big retailers who are looking to offload their excess inventory.
So it's like cutting out the middleman.
In a way, yeah. But it's not as simple as just clicking buy now. You really need to know what you're doing.
You need to be able to decipher those manifest lists and figure out if there's actually anything valuable in those pallets.
Right. You got to be able to spot the diamonds in the rough. And factor in shipping costs, too. That can really eat into your profits if you're not careful.
It's like a whole other level of strategy. And I know one of the key things our sources emphasized was this concept of high piece count loads. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. So remember that example we talked about earlier? The phone case that retails for $30, but you can get for $3 in a bin store.
Yeah.
Well, imagine a pallet with 1,000 of those phone cases. You buy the whole pallet for, say, $1,000. That's just $1 per case. Now you sell each case for $3. That's a $2 profit on each one. Multiply that by 1,000 and you're looking at a pretty nice profit margin.
That's the power of volume.
Exactly. It's all about moving those high volume loads quickly and efficiently. Small margins on each item, but you're selling a ton of items.
And that's where those crazy bin store pricing strategies come into play, right?
Right. We've all seen it. Those signs that say prices drop every day, culminating in the infamous dollar day.
It's like a retail roller coaster, pure chaos.
Controlled chaos, I would say. But there's a real strategy behind it. It taps into the psychology of urgency and scarcity. Customers know that if they wait too long, they might miss out on the best deals.
Makes sense. It's like a built-in marketing engine. And speaking of marketing, I know we'll dive deeper into that later, but one thing I was curious about was, and speaking of marketing, I know we'll dive deeper into that later, but one thing I was curious about was this idea of specialization. Could a bin store actually focus on just one type of product?
Ooh, that's interesting. It's like instead of being the everything store, you become the go-to spot for a specific type of bargain hunter.
Exactly. So instead of just random stuff, you might have a bin store that's all about electronics or vintage clothing or maybe even like, sporting goods or something.
Right. And it makes sense from a sourcing perspective too, right?
Yeah. If you know exactly what you're looking for, you can build relationships with suppliers who specialize in that niche. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you don't have to wade through a million pallets of random junk hoping to find a few treasures. You're going straight to the source for the stuff you know your customers want.
It's like a more focused treasure hunt.
Exactly. And that could even influence where you decide to set up shop, right?
Oh, interesting. So location still matters, even if you're specializing.
Absolutely. It's all about knowing your target customer. Like if you're selling vintage video games and consoles, maybe you set up shop near a university or a tech hub.
Right. A place where you know there are going to be lots of potential customers who are passionate about that kind of stuff. But what about staffing? I mean, would you need to have employees who are experts in that particular niche?
It could definitely be an advantage. Imagine having staff who can actually test and authenticate vintage electronics or advise customers on the best tools for repairing damaged goods.
Wow, that's like next level customer service.
It is. It's about creating a more curated experience, and I think that could really appeal to certain types of customers, especially the ones who are really serious about finding those unique, high-quality items.
So specialization could actually elevate the entire bin store experience.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But let's get back to the practical stuff for a second. Sourcing. That's still the heart of this whole operation, right?
It is, and I think it becomes even more crucial when you're specializing, because now you're not just looking for any old bargain, you're looking for specific items that fit within your niche.
Right. And that can be a bit daunting, especially for someone just starting out. Where do you even begin?
Well, I always recommend starting small and testing the waters. Maybe you buy a few smaller lots from online marketplaces, get a feel for different suppliers, learn how to evaluate the quality and resale value of different types of merchandise.
So it's kind of like dipping your toes in before you jump in the deep end.
Exactly. It's about minimizing your risk while you're still learning the ropes.
And then once you have a better understanding of what sells well in your store and which suppliers you can trust, you can start thinking about scaling up, right?
Exactly. Maybe you start exploring those larger truckload options or even try to negotiate direct partnerships with retailers.
So there's a real entrepreneurial spirit to this whole bin store model, isn't there? You're not just buying and selling, you're building relationships, you're negotiating deals, you're constantly learning and adapting.
It is. It's a really dynamic business. And when you find that perfect inventory source, that supplier, who really understands your vision and consistently delivers high quality goods at bargain prices, well, it's an amazing feeling.
It's like striking gold.
It really is. But of course, even with the best sourcing strategy in the world, there's always the risk of ending up with some duds. Stuff that just doesn't sell.
Right, dead stock. It's the bane of every retailer's existence.
It is. And it can be especially challenging for bin store owners, because you're often dealing with large volumes of merchandise and those tight margins.
So what do you do when you're stuck with a bunch of stuff that just isn't moving? I mean, the sources mentioned donating to charity or selling at a steep discount, but are there other options?
There are. And this is where that idea of subcontract selling can really come in handy. Maybe you partner with another bin store owner who specializes in a different niche and sell them your overstock at a wholesale price.
That's brilliant. It's like creating a little safety net within the bin store community.
Exactly. You turn a potential loss into a win-win situation. And it speaks to this kind of collaborative spirit that I think exists within the bin store world. People are always willing to help each other out.
It's awesome. It's like a community of treasure hunters all working together. But we can't forget about the most important part of this whole equation, the customers.
Ah, yes, the customers. They're the reason we do all of this.
So how can bin store owners create an amazing experience for their customers? I mean, obviously, low prices are a big part of it. But is there more to it than that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. When you walk into a store, what makes you want to stay and shop?
Well, for me, it's all about the atmosphere. I like a store that's bright and clean and organized.
Right. You don't want to feel like you're digging through a dusty old basement. And friendly staff can make a huge difference, too.
Oh, yeah. If the employees are helpful and knowledgeable and they actually seem like they enjoy being there, it just makes the whole shopping experience more enjoyable.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Little things like offering free coffee or snacks or maybe having a designated kids area can really go a long way.
It's all about those little touches that make people feel welcome and appreciated. And speaking of reaching out to customers, let's talk about marketing.
Ah, yes, marketing. It's the key to getting the word out and attracting new customers. But it can be tricky for bin stores because they often rely so heavily on word of mouth and foot traffic.
So how do you break through the noise and get people excited about your bin store?
Well, I think a strong online presence is crucial these days. Having a website with clear information about your store hours and location, maybe an email newsletter to keep people updated about upcoming sales and events, and of course, an active social media presence.
Social media is huge. It's like the modern day version of word of mouth marketing.
Exactly. But it's not just about posting random photos of bins. You have to be creative and engaging. Maybe you post videos of customers finding amazing deals, or share behind the scenes glimpses of your sourcing process, or even host contests and giveaways.
It's about building a community around your
Yeah.
brand. And that's something that social media is perfect for.
Absolutely. So we've talked about specialization, sourcing, customer experience, and even a bit about marketing.
Mm.
But there's one crucial element we haven't discussed yet.
The bottom line. Profitability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great to talk about all these strategies, but at the end of the day, a bin store has to make money to survive.
You're exactly right. And that's where all those things we've been talking about come together, right? You need to have the right inventory, the right pricing strategy, the right customer experience, and the right marketing plan.
It's like a giant puzzle.
It is. And it's a constantly evolving puzzle, too. You've got to be on your toes, always adapting to changes in the market, new trends, new competition.
So it's not a business for the faint of heart.
It's not. But it can be incredibly rewarding. When you see all those pieces come together and you create a thriving business that's providing amazing deals for your customers and supporting your own dreams and goals, well, there's nothing quite like it.
It's a real testament to the power of entrepreneurship.
It is. But I think we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have. So before we move on to the final part, what are some key takeaways you'd want our listeners to keep in mind?
Well, I think the biggest one is that specialization can be a really powerful strategy. It can help you stand out from the crowd, streamline your sourcing efforts, and create a more curated and engaging shopping experience for your customers.
And never underestimate the power of a positive customer experience.
Right. Even in a discount-driven environment like a bin store, people want to feel welcome and appreciated. And finally, I would say, remember that profitability is the ultimate goal. You need to be mindful of your costs, your pricing, and your inventory management. But it's also important to remember that building a successful business is about more than just numbers.
It's about passion, creativity, and a willingness to work hard and take risks.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked strategy, sourcing, customer experience, profitability. But now let's talk about the future. Where do we go from here? What's next for the bin store model?
Well, it's an interesting question, right? Because the retail landscape is changing so rapidly these days.
It really is. I mean, you can't ignore the elephant in the room, right? E-commerce. Everyone's buying everything online these days.
Yeah.
So how do bin stores adapt to that?
Well, I think that's the challenge, isn't it? Figuring out how to embrace the online world without losing that unique in-person treasure hunt experience that makes bin stores so special.
It's a tough balance.
Yeah.
I mean, could a bin store even work online? Would it just become another, discount retailer on the internet?
Right. You don't want to lose that sense of discovery, but I think there are ways to blend the two worlds. Maybe you use social media to tease some of your most unique finds, create a sense of urgency, like, hey, these amazing items are only available in-store for a limited time.
Oh, I like that. That would definitely get people off their couches and into the store.
Right. It's about creating that fear of missing out, you
Right.
know? And you could even have a curated selection of high-value items that are only available for purchase online. That would appeal to a different type of customer, maybe someone who's looking for something specific and is willing to pay a little bit more for the convenience.
So it's not an either situation. It's about finding creative ways to integrate online and offline shopping experience.
Exactly. But I think there's
Right.
even more to it than that. I think bin stores could really leverage technology to enhance the entire shopping experience.
Oh, interesting. In what ways?
Well, think about it. You could use data analytics to track inventory turnover, identify popular items, optimize pricing strategies, or maybe even use AI to personalize the shopping experience. Recommend items to customers based on their past purchases or their browsing history.
Wow. So it's like taking that treasure hunt concept to a whole new level.
It is. You're still giving customers that element of surprise and discovery, but you're also making it easier for them to find the things they're most likely to love. And I think that could really appeal to a wider audience.
It's like a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
And, one thing that we've been hearing a lot about lately is sustainability. How can bin stores play a role in that?
Well, I think they already are, in a way, right? By giving new life to unsold merchandise, they're helping to reduce waste. But I think there's potential to go even further.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, maybe They partner with local recycling programs or host workshops on upcycling or repairing items, or maybe they even offer a take-back program for unwanted goods.
So it's about turning the bin store into a hub for conscious consumerism.
Exactly. It's about making sustainability a core part of the brand identity. And I think that could really resonate with a lot of shoppers, especially younger generations, who are increasingly concerned about the environmental impact of their purchases.
Right. It's not just about getting a good deal anymore. People want to feel good about where they're spending their money. But, there's another trend I've been thinking about, and it's this whole idea of the experience economy. People are craving experiences.
Yes, they want something more than just stuff. They want to create memories.
Exactly. So how do bin stores tap into that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Because it's not like you can turn a bin store into a theme park.
Well, maybe not a theme park, but you can definitely create events and experiences that make shopping at a bin store more than just a transaction. Maybe you host themed shopping nights or have live music or partner with local food trucks or artisans.
Ooh, I love that. So it's about creating a sense of community, making it a fun and engaging place to hang out, even if you're not necessarily planning to buy anything.
Exactly. And think about the social media potential. People sharing photos and videos of these events, creating that fear of missing out that drives even more traffic to the store.
I'm starting to see a whole new vision for the future of bin stores. But let's be real for a second. It's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows, right? There are challenges ahead, too.
Of course. I mean, there's always economic uncertainty, supply chain disruptions, changing consumer habits, and let's not forget about the competition. Online retailers, discount chains, they're all vying for the same customers.
So how do bin stores stay ahead of the curve? How do they not just survive, but thrive in this ever-changing retail landscape?
Adaptability. That's the key word.
Being able to pivot, to think outside the box, to embrace new ideas.
Exactly. The bin store owners who are willing to experiment, to take risks, to constantly evolve their business models, those are the ones who are going to succeed in the long run.
So it's not enough to just love a good deal. You got to be passionate about the business itself.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes bin stores so exciting. It's a constantly evolving model. And who knows what the future holds?
That's the beauty of it. But as we wrap up this deep dive, what final thought would you leave our listeners with?
I would say don't underestimate the power of the bin store. It's more than just a place to find cheap stuff.
It's a community hub, a sustainability champion, an incubator for entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly. So whether you're a seasoned bin store owner or you're just starting to explore this world, remember to think big, be creative, and embrace the challenge.
What a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of bin stores. It's been a wild ride.
It has, and who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be the one to revolutionize this industry and shape its future.
That's what we love to see. Thanks for listening.